coming, the sun's zooming in, meltdown expected, the wheat is good there, engines stop running, but I have no fear, 'cause London is drowning. I live by the river.
Hello everybody and welcome to the 10th, we're into double figures, By the Minute Arsenal podcast with me, Matt H, in the chair, and also with Matt V. Hello Matt.
Afternoon. Who knew we'd make it this far?
I know, into 10, but the nice thing is, of course, things just keep ticking along quite nicely as far as the team's concerned, which is good.
I don't think we're getting enough credit for that.
No, I don't think we are. I think we should there should be T-shirts or something with our faces on. There's a thought. Later on, we have a treat. We have a Spurs fan coming to talk to us with us about the game at the weekend. But before that, we have 3 successful games to review. So let's zip through those. So we'll start with the EFL Cup from last Tuesday, I think it was, against Reading. We managed to win, which is a good thing. Quite a lot of changes to the team, as we expected. Jenkinson back in for one. 2-0, relatively comfortable performance. Oxlade-Chamberlain, of course, scoring the goals. Matt, any particular thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I guess it's just a case of just getting the win, really, ideally in 90 minutes, and that's what we did. I was impressed by a few of those that came in. Maitland-Niles, I thought, was good in midfield, having come back from having a bit of a nightmare at Ipswich.
Right.
I'm pretty sure he got dropped after his mum, who's also his agent, stormed in and started abusing Mick McCarthy. But
oh, yes, that rings a bell. Yes.
Story for another day.
Brilliant.
But no, he seems to have settled down. I guess it just showed once again, even if we do make that many changes, just on paper, it still doesn't look that weak a team compared to the ones we've fielded in the competition in the past. And I think we mentioned this before, with other teams going out that round. And then once again, another home cup draw. It's one we could target, hopefully.
Yeah, so Southampton at home in the quarterfinals, which it could have been easier, but it could have been trickier. Southampton, of course, we know are a decent team, and we've had issues with them in the past.
Yeah.
But certainly a chance to progress into the semi-finals, which would be lovely. I enjoyed. It was good to see Oxlade-Chamberlain as essentially a first-team player get some goals, which is nice for confidence.
Yeah.
And also, there was I seem to remember a couple of good saves from Martinez in goal as well. And a minor thing, but it's nice to think that we have someone that far down our keeper pecking order who's able to, do what's necessary when called upon. So that was quite pleasing. There was the one downside, of course, which is the injury to Lucas Perez. Now, I've heard 6 weeks and 8 weeks, or is it just one of these Arsenal injuries that we'll just have to wait and see when he comes back?
Yeah, I mean, you never really know. Sometimes it starts with he'll be out for a few days, and he'll end up out for months. And sometimes when they say months, it's then only a few weeks. I don't really remember what happened. Was it a tackle, or did he just?
I don't remember what happened. I didn't see it as it happened, but it was a tackle on his ankle. Okay. So it was during the game. Arsene wasn't very happy about it, but that's not a great surprise. No. No one's ever going to be happy about that. But I don't think there was anything hugely malicious about it. But I mean, it's just one of those things. It happens in football. I don't think we can blame anything specifically with the club or the grass or anything else. It's just the key thing here is that we have people who can step in. It's not the, and we've said this a lot over doing these pods. It's not the problem it might have been a few years ago when a player like that gets injured. We've got other people who can step up and we can move people around and all the rest of it. So it's unfortunate, but particularly after he'd had a good couple of assists in the first Ludogorets game. But it's just one of those things. I think we'll just have to move on and wish him well, and hopefully he'll be back soon.
Yeah, I mean, it's annoying for him. He hasn't had huge amount of chances in the first team, and obviously now out for an extended period, but it sort of coincided with Giroud coming back and in excellent form, so it doesn't look like we're going to be hit too hard by it. But yeah, hopefully he is back, obviously, along with Welbeck.
Yes,
as soon
of
as
course.
possible.
Yeah, of course. I keep forgetting Welbeck when we talk about injuries because it's so easy to, because
Yeah.
he's been away for so long. But yes, and that's a lovely sort of problem to have at some point. Okay, well, we'll move on. We'll take the quarterfinal place, and we'll come back to that competition later in the year. I think that it's towards the end of November, the quarterfinal.
Yeah, I think so.
So yeah, we'll come back to that as and when. So then we moved on back to the Premier League action. Our last game in October, before the horror of November awaited us all. So trip to Sunderland, we were fairly confident about this going in, but with about 20 minutes to go, it didn't look particularly like it was going to be a good trip. It's an early kick-off on a Saturday, which I have a sort of fear of anyway, because I don't think the team is really ready to get going. Maybe that's just me, but I'm sure that has some effect. But a 4-1 win in the end, and we have Olivier Giroud basically to thank for that. Off the bench, scores with his first 2 touches. That's a pretty that's an impact substitution, I guess.
Yeah, I mean it's very strange watching Arsenal in such form, and before the match going to a team that hasn't won this season in the Premier League and still feeling very nervous. In that first half, we absolutely dominated them. But while it was 1-0, you always sort of feared it would just take a mistake or one chance for Sunderland, and we could be in trouble.
Yeah, and
I think it was. I think there's one thing just giving the penalty for Defoe, but the fact it came about a minute after. The Sanchez one.
Yeah, I had a note about the 2 penalties. Yeah, I mean, I didn't really see the Sanchez one. I didn't think it was. And then when I saw the replay, I was like, oh, yes, it should have been.
Yeah.
So yes, that juxtaposition of those 2 so close to each other was somewhat frustrating. But luckily, there was Giroud was there. It didn't take very long before Giroud could make things look a little brighter again.
Yeah, we've been saying for a couple of weeks he's the perfect person in tight games to put on for the last 20 minutes to try and make something happen. Maybe not as quickly as he did, or with his first 2 touches, but it was a great way for him to come back into the team. And it showed sort of stronger sides that we maybe haven't had to see so far this season. We've had a lot of games where he scored a lot of goals, been quite comfortable in possession, but to have a setback like this and then respond so well in a short amount of time was a very positive thing to see.
Yeah, I mean, that's 2 games this week, and we'll come on to the next one in a second, where Arsenal have been up against it to one degree or another. On both occasions against teams they were probably expected to beat relatively easily. But done it rather well, I think. And that's what's pleasing. There may have been a little bit of luck here and there, but ultimately they're taking advantage of the opportunities when they arise. I mean, the frustration in that first half against Sunderland was they should have scored more then, basically. But all right, that's happened. You have to move on from it. And then when the opportunities came in that second half, they were fairly ruthless eventually. It took a while, but they got there in that last sort of 20 minutes. Right, okay, Sunderland were probably falling apart a little bit as well by that point. But yeah, I'll take the scrappier goals at the end as much as I'll take the 21 pass move or whatever it was for the first goal. So yeah, we'll take that and move on. Top of the table then at the end of November. Sorry, at the end of October. Be interesting to see if we can still be there at the end of November. But November has not started too badly though, because last night we played the return match against Ludogorets in the Champions League. Well, not the return, but the away version, as it were, of the 6-0 from a couple of weeks ago. And things didn't start well. We were 2-0 down after 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And things were not looking good then, but there was a bit of a revival, to say the least, including getting things level by half-time. And then, of course, the goal at the end from Mesut Ozil. Do you want to talk about that first?
Oh, I'd love to.
I thought you might.
Oh, my goodness. Just the composure, really. I think a lot of players, they see the keeper coming, they're going to try and lob him straight away first time. Ozil obviously then dinked the keeper, didn't even think about shooting then, decided to sit 2 other players down, all while the goalkeeper sort of trundled towards him, desperately trying to catch up. And when Ozil decided the time was right and everybody was sitting on the floor, decided to tuck it away. It's such a good goal, and part of sort of new side of him we've seen this season, where he's added goals, which is what we've been calling for a long time. And he's in unbelievable form at the minute.
Yeah, I mean, my first reaction seeing it was that he was offside, not by the time he scored, but just when I looked up and saw him running through, because just a few moments earlier, was it him again actually been caught offside? And then of course he wasn't offside, but then you realise, okay, no, he's not, and then you sort of think, okay, there's still quite a lot to do though. And then, as you've beautifully described it, he and you sort of know he's going to score. The moment he puts it over the keeper, for me, was the moment I thought, well, he's going to score now, and I didn't quite know how, but I thought he'd be finishing the job he started, if you like. So that was, I can't really add anything much more to what you've said, but it was a joy to see that. And it came after, it was an interesting performance, I thought, because we knew Ludogorets, despite the score last time, were a decent looking side, that they had their moments in the first game, particularly in the first half of the first game. But there we were with 5 changes to the team. I don't think the team gelled particularly brilliantly with all those changes, which is not really a massive surprise. But again, as just discussed with the Sunderland game, it was a case of showing some grit and determination and getting back into it before half-time, and then sticking at it and always looking for the win, I think. And then, okay, it came rather late, but getting the win that enabled us to qualify with 2 games left in the group.
I know, who'd have thought? Didn't take long for November to strike, did it? 15 minutes.
Yes.
To put everything falling apart, it looked like. But Gibbs joins Monreal in our left backs, being up against wingers who has sent him all different ways for their second goal. Sort of feel sorry for them, because they haven't played badly. They've just been up against really quick and skillful wingers that have made them look worse than they are.
Yeah, I mean, again, Ludogorets I thought started very well last night. Obviously, he scored 2 goals, but they looked very intent. But I thought they balanced it a little better than they did in the first game. They weren't quite as reckless. Perhaps isn't quite a fair way of describing it, but they were a bit up and at them in the first game. Whereas perhaps the attitude they took last night, where they sat back a little bit, may have done them more credit in the first game, or they may have got more benefit, I should say, in the first game. But having said that, it almost looked like they didn't know what to do with a 2-goal lead when they got it. Perhaps it's they scored 2 goals too early. I know it sounds ridiculous, but you wonder if that was something to do with it. Anyway, we're not here to commiserate with Ludogorets. We're here to celebrate Arsenal getting through. Now, there was a particular moment of excitement late on when Basel levelled against PSG. And it looked as if Arsenal might have a 2-point lead to take into the PSG game in 3 weeks. Didn't last. PSG, against 10 men, got the win eventually. So Arsenal and PSG tied on 10 points at the top of the group. The others well out of it, just on a point each. So 3 weeks' time, Arsenal PSG. We'll get to that obviously nearer the time, but as a sort of reaction now, any particular thoughts about how we should approach that game and what the outcome might be?
I think it's definitely a winnable game. We didn't play particularly well in the away game, but we still came away with a draw. And PSG aren't in the best of form all round, so I think it's definitely a game we can win. I think we know even if we do top the group, we will then draw Atletico Madrid or somebody like that, while the team who comes second, like PSG, they'll come second and draw Copenhagen or Leicester.
Yeah, I think we can still draw Barcelona as well, potentially, couldn't we? So that kind of thing is inevitable.
Exactly. It'll be interesting to see. I guess we'll talk about the Spurs game in a bit, but what tactics we use going forward, because when Ramsey and Giroud play, it's obviously a very different system, more the system we've seen in previous years. Doesn't have the sort of high pressing, fast-paced nature to our game, and Ramsey not going to do what Walcott or Iwobi does and sort of get to the byline and cross the ball in. He'll look to cut inside himself. So I think that might have explained why we didn't look particularly sharp at first. There were changes to personnel and the system. So yeah, I think Wenger has some big decisions to make about how we go forward.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of that's an interesting point. In terms of our slightly expanded squad now, so in terms of the players that have come back, I suppose. So looking at last night, Ospina, we know his position. I don't mean he's a goalkeeper, but I mean in terms of when he comes in to cover certain games. So he's our European keeper at the moment, at least. We know obviously Giroud. It wasn't quite his first game back because obviously he came on against Sunderland, but he's not a. We know where he's going to fit in. We think he's going to be used as and when necessary in certain games if they want to change the system around or if they want to bring him off the bench for a bit of an impact substitution. So, Ramsey and Jenkinson, I suppose, were the two last night who you sort of wonder what's going to happen with them in the future. So, and by the future, I just mean the rest of this season, really. So, obviously Ramsey is very highly thought of, but you look at the midfield and the front six, if you like, and it all seems to be working quite well at the moment anyway. So it's where we see him coming in, and also it's great to see Jenkinson, but is he going to be a regular player? Are either of them going to be regular players this season? I suppose is the question.
Yeah, I think the problem with Ramsey is that he doesn't offer the defensive abilities that Coquelin or El Neni do, or Xhaka as well to an extent, and he doesn't sort of keep the game ticking along as well as Cazorla would if he played. So you're not really sure where he'd fit in or who he'd be best to partner with in that midfield, whereas the rest of the midfield, they sort of partner quite well together, Cazorla and Xhaka, Coquelin and Xhaka. So, and he's obviously not going to be getting in instead of Ozil in a more attacking role. So I think Ramsey could struggle in terms of just how many options we have in midfield. Jenkinson's a bit more obvious in that his chances will only come if Bellerin is injured. I'm not sure if Bellerin's going to be back for the Tottenham game. I hope he is, but it does see, I don't know what's happened to Debussy. I don't know if he's still alive, but it looks like Jenkinson's firmly second choice.
I've always liked Jenkinson actually, so I'm happy to see it. But of course, he's you're right. He's not going to unseat Bellerin anytime soon. Okay, well that was so 3 results we're pretty happy with. Nice way to enter November. Of course, November did start, apart from last night, starting quite well with the result at least by the end of the evening. But this idea, I don't think we have to worry about it. But this idea now that Alexis Sanchez is being done for some kind of tax fraud thing. I don't think that's anything we need to worry about. I think it's like the other cases there's been involving Barcelona players, but I believe innocence has already been professed. So as long as he doesn't miss any games for us, I'm fine with that.
Yeah, I mean, if he's going to take a prison sentence, if they could do it in the international break, that would be really convenient. But if not, it looks like at worst they get a fine, which probably amounts to 20 minutes pay for them. So
yeah, I think that's one hopes that's all that we're going to happen to him. I mean, you do with some players, you might think, I wonder if having this hanging over him will affect his game in some way, but he seems to be a player who isn't affected by anything else, whether it's travelling around the world, whether it's playing 15 games in a week or whatever it might be. He just seems to be able to plough through it. I do worry that at some point it's all just going to go badly wrong for him, but hopefully not anytime soon. Touch wood. I don't want that to happen, of course, but I certainly don't want it to happen when he's an Arsenal player. Okay then, so we've done all the reviews of the last week for Arsenal, so we can't put it off any longer. We have to get into the preview of, there's only one game left before the international break, and it is Arsenal Spurs North London derby this Sunday midday at the Emirates. And to warm us all up for that, we have a very special guest. We have one of our by-the-minute overlords who's a Spurs fan to give us the alternative point of view. We have Chris. Hello, Chris.
Hiya. Can I get one thing clear? Is swearing allowed on this podcast?
We haven't yet, but if you want to throw the odd one in, I'm sure that'll be fine. I don't think anyone's going to be offended.
I'm just going to lay the battleground down. You're a pair of shits.
Well, that's fair enough. That's going to be different to what people have heard so far, but we can go with that. We can find the level. That's absolutely fine. Right, Chris, tell us how good you think Spurs' start to the season has been, considering where they are in the league, how they've done so far, all that kind of stuff.
Well, considering we're undefeated, I'd say the last month has been a little disappointing. But that's got to be tempered with Harry Kane being out. If you took a 25-goal striker out of any team, then they'd struggle. In the past, when Spurs have had this big striker and he's been missing, the team has folded. But we're a different side now to the one I watched growing up and then through my teen years and that. We are well coached. We fight till the last minute. Sometimes we overstep the mark, as in the Chelsea game last season. But it's refreshing in a way to see a Spurs team which isn't flaky. And we definitely, you can see that we've got an Argentinian in charge of us because we've got a bit of skill, but we've got a nasty side when required. And I think in the times past, we might have been bullied going to Arsenal. But if there's going to be one team doing the bullying on Sunday, it'll be us.
Well, yeah, I mean, I have to admit, having a sneaking admiration for Spurs, that's probably going to mean I can't. I don't know, it's probably going to mean I can't do this anymore. But just that, not in terms of the way they play, but you've got to, where they were a few years ago to where they are now, and obviously the manager seems to take some credit for that. Looking at the stats, though, there seems the one problem so far, and it's been a defined problem, is a bit of a lack of goal scoring. I think is it like 5 goals at home or something, or 6 goals is it, I think, at home, which is, well, I was surprised when I saw that. But Kane may be back on Sunday. Do we know if that's for definite yet, or is that just a rumour being thrown around?
He trained with the first team yesterday with an eye to him probably getting some minutes tonight in the Champions League game. But they probably didn't want to risk him, so he's going to be training again on Thursday. I think if he's fit enough to start, they will definitely start him. The problem Spurs have got, and the problem most teams have, is if you've got a centre forward who's by far and away your first choice, it's a hard sell to get somebody else into the club who's primarily going to be a backup. They took a chance on Janssen, and bless him, he tries his best every game. You can see he's trying his best, but his best at the level Tottenham are at, and you've got to win at the level Tottenham and Arsenal and other teams. You've got to win every game, otherwise people start moaning.
Yeah.
And Janssen, at the moment, isn't quite at it. But could you get another forward for 20, 25 million and say, well, you're not really going to play every week, mate? And he's going to say, nah, I don't want to come. So you've got a chance on someone. And at the moment, it hasn't quite come off, and he hasn't linked up with Ali, Ericsson and Lamella like Kane does. But they've been this Tottenham team hasn't been chopped and changed now for 2 years. So everyone, the first 11, know exactly where each other's going to go, and they're a well-oiled machine. It's just when one or two slip out of that, then we struggle. But we don't lose games.
Yeah.
We draw. So that's the difference.
Who do you? I had a question actually. I was going to ask. I've just remembered I had it. Who would you credit? I think I know what the answer to this is going to be. Who do you credit for the improvement in Spurs over the last sort of 3, 4, 5 years? Is it the owner, whose name escapes me, Lewis? Is it Levy, or is it the manager, or is it a combination, or what?
I'll give a tiny bit of credit for Levy for eventually finding the right manager. It's only taken him 15 years. But it should all go down to Pochettino. He has rid the team of all the deadwood. He's given youth a chance. And in my lifetime, I'd say 100% of the fans behind him. That's never ever happened to a Tottenham manager before. Never ever happened. To go into the ground, I actually stopped going to Tottenham about 5 years ago because it was people were there just first minute a boo went up. But now it's electric there. He's just got them all singing. He's got the fans behind it. He's got all you don't hear the players moaning now about, oh, I'm not playing. You used to get that in the press all the time with Spurs. If a player was out for a couple of games, he'd moan. He'd moan in the press. Not anymore.
Yeah, I suppose successful teams, it's easier, isn't it, for everyone to well, you look like an Emmanuel Adebayor, as it were. If you start whinging when you're in a successful team, you look a bit out of place. So when a team's doing well, it's those things are probably easier to hide a bit than perhaps they are if it's not so successful. Speaking of which, we'll get to the game in a minute. But what would your goals for the season as a whole be for Spurs? What do you think they can realistically achieve?
We are one now the league's had 10 games, it's taken shape, and we are one of the top 5 teams in the league. Right, we're 5th, but somehow we're undefeated and somehow we're 5th. So that's where we're drawn. We are one of the top 5 teams in the league. There's no arguing with that. Are we good enough to win the league? Probably not. Would I have said that at the start of the season? You knew that at the start of the season that City and Chelsea were going to be better. I'd take Champions League. We've been in the Champions League twice since its formation. I'd take another. I think if Tottenham can get in the Champions League again, that's a top 4 finish. We take it.
That's interesting. I thought you might go for you might want to tilt at the league. Obviously, last year was there was that was going quite well until the last sort of few games.
We lost things under the radar.
Right.
Let's talk about City and Chelsea, Liverpool. We'll just quietly go about our business, and that's what we done last season. We quietly went about our business until about 10 games from the end of the season, and people thought, "Hang on, Tottenham might win the league here." And we got a lot of stick for blowing it. I don't think we blew it, really. We didn't blow that league. It's just that Leicester kept on winning.
They kept. I probably have to agree. I think they did just keep going. Spurs did have a bit of a spectacular blow up just those last couple of games.
Yeah, but the thing is, if
it didn't matter by then.
It's like a lot of Arsenal fans. You probably cry, "Oh, we beat Tottenham to second place or whatever." Was there any difference last season if finished second or third?
Well, no.
None. So we couldn't win the real prize at the end of the day. So we just thought, fuck it.
That's fair enough. Right. On that note, let's move to the game this weekend. I'm going to go to Matt first, just as it's an Arsenal pod, just to give him a chance to say something. So, Matt, views on this game, hopes, fears, chances, what's going to happen?
Sure. I mean, my main fear is that when inferior clubs do come to the Emirates and they know their limitations, they do just sit defensively, play for a draw, knowing that they don't really have enough going forward. My fear is that will happen once again. And it's just a matter of whether we can break down the team. I think the main difference between the teams, regardless of whether Harry Kane starts or not, is the form of the attacking players. We've got 3 or 4 players in really good goal scoring form. Tottenham don't have that. I guess it just depends. You'd probably say their defence is better than ours at the moment. So it's probably a case of whether we are able to break down our defence, and when Tottenham do get their chances, whether they can take them. On current form, it doesn't look like they will take them. So I think anything apart from an Arsenal win would be disappointing.
Very, very strong view there. Chris, what do you think?
Can I just say that's absolute bullshit?
I thought you might.
What bit?
When you opened your mouth. Started from then. I'm not going to be so biased. Arsenal have got some very good players. And if Toby Alderweireld isn't fit, then Arsenal will have the best player on the pitch on Sunday.
Did you say if he's not fit, we'll have the best player on the pitch?
But I said, listen, keep on listening.
Yeah.
There's no denying that Mesut Ozil is too good for Arsenal. So that goal last night, if he tries that on Sunday lunchtime, he won't be able to do it because he's not up against pig farmers. He's up against the best defence in the league and the best goalkeeper in the league. So he won't be doing that. We won't come out gung ho, but we will press you. And last time you were pressed, Liverpool tore you apart. Now you've probably improved since the opening day of the season, and we will have to take our chances. So that's why I'm quite keen that Kane actually starts the game. It'd be a 1-1 draw, to be honest.
I'm going. I was going to say my view might be that kind of thing might be the outcome. And I think from my point of view, from an Arsenal point of view as well, I think if we get an early goal, or dare I say it 2, then that even just if it's the one early goal, I think that can make a huge difference to the way the game will go. I don't like Arsenal Spurs games because you never know what's going to happen, particularly in the more recent events. The last one at Spurs I went to was the 5-4, which was ridiculous and joyful and horrifying all in one go. So I always have a fear of something like the 4-4 or something else happening at home. So yeah, I can almost see it being a draw. I can almost see the teams cancelling each other out, and I wonder if both teams would be not satisfied with that, but would sort of take that and move on. It would be great, of course, to stop this unbeaten run of Spurs in the league before it gets any further and they start getting ideas. But I don't know. I don't feel quite confident enough that Sunday's the day that can happen.
Also, I think in the back of my mind it's a midday kickoff.
Yeah,
it's too early.
It's way too early.
Too early. What I know, there's a bit of probably policing and Sky or BT having their 2p in it, but it's too. I wouldn't be surprised if the game starts off quite slowly, to be honest. But as I've got two Arsenal fans here, how are you going to deal with Wanyama and Dembele in centre midfield with popish midfielders?
Well, I mean it depends if we play there, I suppose. I mean, Xhaka's still going to be out, isn't he? Which is probably just as well, given he's a bit of a liability when it comes to cards.
Is he out? Oh, no.
Will he still be out for that one?
I don't know. I hope not. I thought.
Well, it's 3 game. It was a 3-game thing, wasn't it? After Swansea.
Oh,
so
yeah.
if we had 3 games, I suppose. Does the Carling Cup count? I should really. Oh, it's not with the
Carling Cup counts.
It does count. So he might be back then. But if it's sort of him and Coquelin, to give an example, then that would be a different situation than if it was, Cazorla and El Nini or something. I mean, it's a tricky one. It's going to have to. I mean, I don't know. I think defence is going to have to be. The central defenders are always going to have to be strong for a game like this anyway. So they would come into play as well. Matt, any ideas
On Dembele and the other one?
Yes.
Not really. I think in recent games we've had more width. In previous years we have just sort of tried to bulldoze through the middle, but I think we've got enough pace out wide to stretch Tottenham. I'm hoping we start with Sanchez up front and not Giroud.
Yeah.
I'm desperately hoping we don't start with Ramsey on the right wing either.
No, I don't think so. I mean, I think obviously those changes last night were interesting, to put it one way. But I think pace has got to be our friend on at the weekend.
If you put Ramsey up again on the right hand side, Danny Rose will just run all over him. That's the thing. Which should be interesting battle on Sunday between Rose and Walker against who you have Walcott, and who's going to play on the left for you?
Iwobi,
but yeah.
That probably will be where the game could be won and lost. I'll tell you who comes out on top out of those 4, because Walker and Rose are integral to our Spurs play, because our 2 attacking wide players cut in. So that's where we get our width from. And if they can push Walcott and Iwobi back into their own half, then that's half the battle for Spurs. But I think that could be where the game could be won and lost.
All right. Well, let's. We've done sort of 15 minutes or so, so let's think about wrapping up. So let's go for a score prediction. So Chris, what's the score going to be?
Well, I said 1-1, but that's too weak. I'll go 2-1 Spurs.
All right, Matt.
Yeah, it is a tough one. I'm torn whether to go 3-1 or 4-1 to Arsenal. I think I'll go 4-1.
That would be. I'm doing this for by the minute, so I would be delighted if that happened. I will also opt not to sit on the fence, so I'll go tighter. I think 1-0 to Arsenal. I will take that famous scoreline this weekend if I can. So, all right, that's great. We'll wrap it up there. So, Chris, thank you very much for coming onto our pod and giving us your opinions. Thank you very much.
Want me to come on once we beat you? I don't mind next week.
We'll see how it goes, and then we'll decide what to do.
Goodbye.
Cheers, Chris, and cheers, Matt. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I can't wait to be calling Chris at about 2:00 on Sunday as our 4th goal's gone in.
That would be a joy as that happens. And well, thank you very much for listening, and we will be back to discuss the Spurs game at some point next week. So from us, cheers for listening, and we'll speak to you soon. Bye bye.